Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Kennesaw State Owls Dynasty here on College Football 25. It's our Year 2 season wrap-up episode, and we'll start it off by taking a look at the College Football Playoff Bracket. As we see here, Texas A&M at number 1, followed by Clemson, Oregon, Kansas State. All of those teams win their respective conferences and get that much-coveted first-round bye. And then first-round matchups include number 12, Penn State against number 5, SMU. As the Mustangs fell there in the ACC Championship to Clemson. Then we'll have Louisiana, who finished at 12-1 there, winners in the Sun Belt against number 8, Virginia Tech, number 11, Maryland, who actually made the Big Ten Championship but got rocked there by Oregon. They'll face Colorado. And then we'll have Tennessee and Texas there in the 10-7 matchup. A lot of orange going to be seen in that game. We'll also take a look at the bowl matchups here. Now that we are in bowl season, we're going to simulate through the entirety of this remaining season. We'll get through the college football playoff, the national championship, and set it up for our off-season next time out, but not before doing our due diligence, all the pageantries that come here in Dynasty. So Appalachian State is going to kick it off against Georgia Tech. The Mountaineers just fell there in the Sun Belt Championship. Bowling Green finishes the year ranked. They'll be against a 9-3 Marshall team. Virginia here at 21 taking on Charlotte. The 49ers had a very good season. Temple fell there in the AAC Championship. They finished at 10-3, still ranked. North Texas at 15 in the nation. They'll take on Utah. Syracuse, Washington in the Holiday Bowl. Number 16, Kentucky against UCF in the Texas Bowl. The Bahamas Bowl is going to be UL Monroe against number 24, Middle Tennessee State. The Blue Raiders, a very good season here representing the Conference USA, finishing ranked. Hopefully they can get that bowl win as they fell against Liberty in the Conference Championship. And Liberty, one of the first teams out along here with Fresno State, as we have the number 13 and the number 14 teams, both winners in their conference, as both of these teams just narrowly miss out on the playoff, but a good matchup there. Moving down here past all those bowl matchups, we already saw West Virginia at versus number 22, UConn. The Huskies still independent, maybe a candidate to join the Conference USA, as we are trying to expand here going into the Year 2 offseason. UConn, one of the teams that we're considering, along with some Sun Belt teams, going to try and pluck them away. And the famous Idaho Potato Bowl will have Notre Dame against Boise State, just 8 wins this season for the Fighting Irish. And then here in the New Orleans Bowl, at one point, our Kennesaw State Owls actually projected to play against, I think it might have been Fresno State here in this New Orleans Bowl, but dropped our last 2 games and did not get that bowl eligibility, unfortunately. Heartbreaking end to the season, that Louisiana Tech game on Senior Day, and then that tough loss last time against a ranked Liberty team. And weird to see, though, 2 Conference USA teams here in this bowl game. I don't know how often that happens, if ever. Of course, we got to check out the Pop-Tarts Bowl. We'll have Texas Tech against Florida State. Both of those teams 7-5. Alamo Bowl going to be Missouri against a ranked Arizona team. Michigan against South Carolina here in what pretty much is the Capital One Bowl, I think. So many of these bowl games, just new names that I'm not familiar with. As Ohio State misses out, the reigning national champs are going to have to settle for the Cheez-It Citrus Bowl here against Auburn. Isn't that a combination? Cheez-Its and citrus. Let's try that. The Cotton Bowl. Kansas State awaits their opponent. Gator Bowl, though. Alabama against Miami. LSU against Oklahoma in the Sun Bowl, 2 SEC teams. And then in the Music City Bowl, we'll have 2 ranked teams here in Florida and USC. Now we'll do a quick run through of the stat leaders across the nation. I don't think we got to this last year, so apologies there. But Cade Klubnik, the only passer going over 4,000 yards, led the nation and also won the Heisman Trophy as his Clemson Tigers enter the college football playoff at number 2 as they look to bring another national championship there to Clemson. Mikey Keene here of Fresno State 2nd. Kyle Crum of San Diego State 3rd, but looked like he did end the season injured. Nicholas Vattiato, we've seen him twice already in this dynasty as he's set for graduation. A nice career there with the Blue Raiders, but we're not going to miss him at all. Tommy Newman of Georgia, Tate Roadmaker, Billy Edwards Jr. of Maryland set there for a playoff run along here with Preston Stone of SMU. Tyler Cherry of Indiana. We saw him earlier in the year as we fell there to the Hoosiers in overtime, as Tyler Cherry was named a freshman All-American at quarterback, 33 touchdowns in his redshirt freshman season. Garrett Nussmeier here of LSU up here. Avery Johnson, I think a Heisman finalist. Evan Simon of Temple. Connor Wagman of Texas A&M. Aggies enter as the top seed. Noah Fafita, look at this. 42 touchdowns to just 2 interceptions for the junior. So it looks like he will be back for the Wildcats unless he enters the NFL draft, but what a ratio. Ty Simpson of Alabama, he was in the Heisman race most of the way. And I'll just check out rushing leaders here. Cartavius Norton of Charlotte led the way at 1,394 yards. Also led with 13 touchdowns, tied with C.J. Baxter here of Texas. Nicholas Singleton of Penn State, number 3. And then look at Gavin Garcia up here with 1,188, 4th in the nation in rushing. But I want to say he also led in carries as he did. So we had the most carries there for Gavin Garcia. I don't know if that means we have to mix it up more with the play calling or mix it up with our ball carriers, or if our amount of plays is a little off whack. Dylan Sampson there from Tennessee, he entered the season, I think, 4th or 5th in the Heisman watch. Jordan James of Oregon, and not many 1,000-yard rushers. I know the simming here is a little off with NCAA here and Madden, but only a dozen 1,000-yard rushers, really not realistic. Dylan Carson here of Air Force, a fullback, but obviously in that scheme gets carries. Damian Martinez of Miami, Sutton Smith of Memphis, Abu Sama III, and then the last 1,000-yard rusher here, Ricky Hunt Jr. of Ohio. Now at receiving, Darius Clemens, the Blitnikoff Award winner, led the way at 1,392 with 91 catches, 14 touchdowns for the senior receiver here of Fresno State. Javonte Sherman, we saw him. He had a touchdown against us this season, 1,359 yards, as he and Battiato there from Middle Tennessee State going to be moving on to graduation, so that's good. Hopefully that means they won't be as competitive against us next season. Raji Dennis here of Louisiana, a true sophomore, as the Raging Cajuns will be in the college football playoff. 14 touchdowns for him. Louis Brown IV here of San Diego State. Caleb Douglas of Texas Tech. It looks like he led the way with 19 touchdowns, the senior receiver. Jonte Cook II of Texas up here. 15 touchdowns for him. Caden Lee of Indiana, Dane Key of Kentucky, Shalik Knotts of Maryland, 16 touchdowns for him. Some of these receivers, their production is just out of control sometimes. Kendrick Law finishes with 1,111 receiving yards, 13 touchdowns. Dakota Twitty, 12 touchdowns from Virginia. Landon Bieta of LSU, 15 touchdowns here for Jairus Mack of Charlotte, 17 for Tyler Brown. I think he actually finished second in the Heisman voting behind teammate Cade Klubnik. Maven Anderson, 15 touchdown catches, 14 for Jamarian Wayne of Missouri. Andre Robinson, 11. Jeremy Bernard with 11. And then we'll finish it off here at Jeremiah Smith. Everyone knows him. 42 catches, 1,000 yards even, 12 touchdowns, but 23.8 yards per catch. And that was the highest mark in the nation. A stud receiver there. As we'll see how much more he grows. Already 90 overall as a true sophomore. Might get up to 99 by the time that's all said and done there. Just go to defense. 100 tackles. Randall Shelby, the only player to achieve that mark during the regular season. Drew Rodriguez with 99. Aiden Fisher of Indiana. He had a good game against us back in week 2. Tackles for loss, 9 from Caleb Edwards of Louisiana. Tied there with Jamal Anderson from Clemson. I think he won a couple awards. And the sack leader, I don't think this is right. Only 11 sacks. There's no way that could have been the lead around the nation. And then only a few players here with like 6, 5.5. And we did have we had Westmoreland led our team with like 7. So I'm not sure why they're not showing up here when we sort it. That is kind of weird. 7 interceptions from CJ Burton led the nation. Darian Lewis here of Akron at 6, 5 from Jamal Anderson. So he had a very good season with 9 tackles for loss, 5 interceptions, 10 pass deflections there for the junior linebacker. Pass deflections, 15 from Brian Dilworth of Kansas, 14 Xavier Simmons, Charlotte. Go to forced fumbles, 4 from Javon Thomas of Texas A&M. And I think he won the Thorpe Award for the best defensive back in the nation as his team set for a playoff run here. Did we have any touchdown returns? And we did 2 from Jeremiah Love there of Notre Dame. And then a few other guys here had 1. What about punt returns? Any there? And then 2 from Reuben Owens, who I believe was the Doak Walker Award winner for top running back. Mika Hudson had 2 there from Texas Tech, and Zachariah Branch 2 from USC. And now before we get to simming the rest of this season, let's just do a quick look at our own player stats, just for the record. So Dewan Stanzi took over as a starting quarterback in week 4, and he led our Owls to a 5-4 record, just over 1,800 yards, 12 touchdowns to 10 interceptions. And half of those interceptions were in the last 2 games. So he was really good practicing ball security through the air to start, and then just kind of fell off there in that Liberty and Louisiana Tech games. Davis Bryson will be back next year as a senior, just 65 overall. And it's funny because we have Stanzi now up to 68 overall. I think he opened at 65 or 66. And really, this has been the only team I've played with in this game. But I did start another Dynasty offline, and I did sim, the first like 4 or 5 seasons before I jumped in. And at that point, to have a quarterback like 85 overall, and it's crazy the things you could do with an 85 overall quarterback compared to what we've been working with in this dynasty. You really don't know like what else is out there until, give it a go. So hopefully Stanzi can continue to grow within the offense. Very promising, encouraging freshman season. Although we do have 3-star gem Deion Kendricks into the fold next year. Rushing, of course, Garcia led the way. Gabriel Benyard behind him at 568 rushing. So, kind of going back to my question earlier, I feel like we did, evenly distribute. Benyard had like half the carries of Garcia, but still that's over like 1,700 combined yards between the two guys with 17 touchdowns. Maybe could have distributed it a little bit more evenly when it came to the carries, but we also had Benyard at receiver, so you got to think, that's pretty even, I would say. But Garcia and Benyard definitely going to be missed from this team, and our backfield is going to have a whole new look next year. Quite Ashley will be a senior. He might be the feature guy. We signed 2 gem running backs, and we might try to target someone in the transfer portal just to bring a little bit more experience. But a ton of production going to be vacated from our backfield in the way of over 1,700 rushing yards and 17 touchdowns. Receiving, no one really pulled away with it. Bryce Dobson had a nice second half emergence as he had 100 yards in that Louisiana Tech game. I think our only 100-yard receiver of the season, as he ended second on the team with 35 catches, but did lead with 393 receiving yards. And he was the only player on our team with more than 2 touchdown catches. So that seems pretty promising, for the sophomore receiver, as he is set to be the number 1. We're going to lose Christian Moss here, who had 363 and a touchdown, senior, former Virginia Tech transfer. Benyard here had that rushing production, also had 36 for 350 in the passing game. Bohannon, another senior, 20 for 283. He's been solid in the first 2 years, but he now graduates. Garcia chipped in with 14 catches. Then we'll have Tykeem Wallace here, mostly a returner, as he'll be moving on as well. So 3 of our top 4 receivers, I guess you could even say 4 of our top 5 with Connor Feiner down here, but he really wasn't much of a contributor. So between our receivers and our running backs, a whole new look on offense next season. But we will have Carson Kent back at tight end for his 3rd year as the starter. Another area we might try to bolster in the transfer portal. But Kent always a solid contributor, 33 for 383 and 2 touchdowns. Now going over to blocking, we'll just sort by downs played as Nate Wright, first team all-conference at center. 2 sacks allowed on 827 snaps. And I think those last 2 came in like the last 2 or 3 games. JT Pennington started at left tackle, moved to left guard. The most sacks allowed on this team with 7, as he will graduate along here with Dodge Soser, who we did have starting at left tackle. He's been pretty solid over the course of this dynasty, just so many penalties. We'll lose him, Pennington, and also Zacchaeus Williams. So 3 of our starting offensive linemen are going to graduate. So not only do we have to, replenish our skill positions, but also the offensive line, we're going to have to replace the majority. But we will have Ethan Newman, as he started at right tackle for the majority of the year. Also had his experience at left guard. Kalari Gordon, we tried to work in a little bit, freshman, but he was not good. Allowed 5 sacks and just 235 snaps. That was 2nd on the team, even though he only made like 2 or 3 starts. Now on defense, Danielius Johnson, maybe the most important player on this team. He'll be back for his senior season, and he is our highest rated player. Sidney Porter going to be gone. Tremendous box safety for us, made a bunch of big plays. He'll be graduating. Brandon Hillman, though, will be back. He has star development. Got him as a transfer last year from Michigan. And I expect he, Johnson, and then Donovan Westmoreland down here to be our centerpieces on defense next season. Westmoreland with 8.5 sacks led the team, also with 19 tackles for loss. Going back up a little bit, though, Tyler Hollum started all 24 games at corner for us. He'll be moving on. Had an interception, 7 pass deflections this season. Jam Warren, another player we're going to lose. He was kind of all over for us on defense as our 3rd safety. Then he'll vacate 49 tackles, 5 for loss, a sack, and interception. Garland Benyard here had an interception going back to week 1. In that Wake Forest game, he'll be graduating along with his brother there, Gabriel Benyard. Jordan Miles here, 13 tackles for loss, 6 sacks. Started pretty much every game over this dynasty at right end. Someone else we're going to have to replace. Tackles for loss, we said 19 for Westmoreland, 13 for Miles, but then 12 here for freshman Tyler Anger out of Deerfield Beach, Florida. Tremendous freshman season from him. Also 4 sacks as well. Use him on the inside as an interior pass rusher in nickel packages, but then in the 4-3 move him to D end, as he has tremendous speed, strength, and versatility along the line. 8 from Porter. Also Adam Watkins here had 2 sacks as well as our starting D tackle over the course of this dynasty so far, set for graduation. Going over to sacks, Westmoreland led with 8.5, 6 from Miles, 4 for Anger, 2 from Watkins, and really not much after that. 1.5 from Devin Ross, our slot corner. And then 3 players each with 1. Warren, Michael Pettigrew, freshman linebacker, who we played for 4 games, actually looked pretty good. Along here with Jackson Colvin, redshirt freshman, who is going to be in our D-end rotation next year. Only 2 players with multiple interceptions. That includes Devin Ross, redshirt freshman, Sidney Porter. Jam Warren with 1 along here with Johnson, Hollum, Benyard, and Q Billingsley, sophomore starting corner. Our biggest riser from last year's spring. Deflection, 7 for Hollum, 6 there for Ross, Hillman, 4 for Porter. About forced fumbles to kind of finish it off here for defense. 2 for Porter and Johnson, 1 for Hillman and Westmoreland. And I think we had 2 touchdowns here, 1 from Johnson, 1 from Jam Warren. And then one of our low-key MVPs, Britton Williams, the senior kicker, Went 16 for 16 this year, absolutely perfect after last year. Not as good at all. I think it was like 9 for 16 last year, something like that. 53 long, and it says he was perfect from extra points, but we actually did miss one during the season, but it did not register, so I guess it's going to say he's perfect all around, but we know he did have that one blemish, even though it's not showing up on paper. 3 for 3 from 29, 4 for 4, up to 39, 7 for 7 up to 49, and then 2 for 2, 50 or more. He was absolutely on the money. We're going to have to replace him along with Joshua Hewitt, our punter. A better year from him as we kind of were getting acclimated with the punting in this game, kind of going for that rugby approach and, kind of banking on those bounces if it's not fielded. 33.5 net, not great, but not the worst, I guess. Now we'll move along here to awards. And as I said, Heisman Trophy winner Cade Klubnik from Clemson, head coach of the year Joe Clay there from Louisiana, as the Raging Cajuns set for a playoff run. Best quarterback goes to Klubnik over Wagman, Avery Johnson, Salter, who we saw in the last episode, Billy Edwards Jr. of Maryland. Best defensive player goes to Jackson Howard of Minnesota, Devon Jackson of Oregon under him there with Bear Alexander, Shamar Stewart, Kylep Edwards. Best D-back here, the Thorpe Award goes to Javon Thomas. Had a few teammates behind him. Also, Sidney Porter making an appearance here at number 7. Did not expect to see that. Best running back, Ruben Owens here of Texas A&M. Also had those 2 kick return touchdowns. Darius Clemens here of Fresno State wins the Blitnikoff. The Lombardi Award goes to Shamar Stewart. Unitas Golden Arm to Cade Klubnik, just over Caden Salter. Best DN goes to Jackson Howard. Donovan Westmoreland finishes at number 4. Best interior lineman goes to Dylan Fairchild of Georgia. Best tight end, the Mackey, goes to Oscar Delp, also of Georgia. The Broyles Award for top assistant coach of the year for George Sparks of Louisiana, probably in line for a head coaching gig, along with the D coordinator there, Daniel Dixon. Best linebacker, Jamal Anderson of Clemson. We saw him earlier. Best center goes to Andrew Madrigal of Nevada. Lou Groza Award to Atticus Sappington of Oregon. What a name that is. Best punter, Max Fletcher. And then best returner, Jordan Washington of UW. I know it's a lot before we get into the simming. Also the All-Americans, Cade Klubnik, Ruben Owens, Cartavius Norton of Charlotte, Caleb Douglas, Darius Clemens, Jeremiah Smith makes the first team. I want to say he missed some time with just 1,000 receiving yards. Although, Ohio State always has a deep receiving core, so probably just distributing it. Oscar Delp, Josh Connerly Jr. of Oregon, Tyler Booker of Alabama, Drew Kendall, another Alabama guard here, Jaden Roberts. And then right tackle here, Jonah Savaiinaea of Arizona, 95 overall, one of the top overall prospects in the draft. Maybe set for a top 5, top 10 pick. Ruben Bain of Miami as we start defense, along here with Abdul Carter, another projected first-round pick, probably a top 10 guy here, along with Bear Alexander at 94 overall. Peter Woods, Sonny Styles of Ohio State, Nick Martin, Jacob Manu of Arizona. I think he made it last year as well. Colin Wright, Stanford, Jermaine Matthews Jr., along here with Caleb Downs. As a pair of Buckeyes make it in the secondary, Kevin Winston Jr. of Penn State, and then specialist Alex McPherson of Auburn, Max Fletcher of Cincinnati. On the second team, Caden Salter here with Damian Taylor and Jordan James there in the backfield. Tyler Brown, the top receiver here on the second team with Marvin Anderson, Alex Bullock. At tight end, Roberto Miranda. On the offensive line, Logan Brown, Dylan Fairchild. I think it was the Remington Award winner, Lyndon Cooper. At center, Xavier Hill, Francis Malgoa. Nick Scorton of Texas A&M to start the defense, along here with Boubacar Traore of Notre Dame, Kenneth Grant, and transfer Dante Corleone. Corleone transferred from Cincinnati to Notre Dame this past offseason. Elijah Herring, Deontay Lawson, and Anthony Hill Jr. making up the linebackers. And then here in the secondary, 2 transfers. Dacario Davis transferred from Arizona to Oregon, and then Maxwell Hairston, I think, from Kentucky to Penn State, as both of them now second-team All-Americans nationally. At safety, Dylan Thieneman of Purdue, Xavier Nwankpa of Iowa, and then the specialist Mason Shipley and Jackson Ross now for the freshman team. Pretty much everyone redshirted, so none of these guys, auto-generated. Tyler Cherry of Indiana, Brock Townsend of Central Michigan, Andre Devine of Jacksonville State. We saw him earlier. Looks like the Gamecocks have a nice running back there. Chris Durr of Wyoming, Brett Stinson, Kyle Shorts, Decker DeGraff of UW, Mauricio Hines, Daniel Calhoun of Georgia, Jason Zondamea of Florida, as they also have Fletcher Westfall. So 2 freshman offensive linemen make the freshman team here for Florida. Charlotte right guard here, Dom Sylvia. On defense, Jeremiah Beeman, Amari Williams, Marcus Downs. And then we have our first true freshman here, Cal Sun at 80 overall, so he must have been a 5-star recruit there for the Ohio State Buckeyes. At linebacker, Gabe Williams, Justin Williams, and then Justin Logan, all red shirts. Camden Poole, Caleb Beasley, the corners. Xavier Squires, Tracy Bennett, Sam McLaughlin, and then another true freshman here, Baraka Hunt of Louisville. And we will just check out Conference USA, check out who made it for our guys. And the freshman Conference USA team we'll start with, as we do have Devon Stanzi at quarterback. Also have Kalari Gordon here at right guard, although he's probably just out there by default. Did not have a good season. No one on defense. We only played a few guys on defense in those 4 games before giving them the red shirt. Salter made it at quarterback, as you would expect. Gavin Garcia, first team all-conference. I think finished 3rd in the nation in rushing. James Joyner Jr. will be back for the Flames. Very good running back they have here, along with Victor Jones Jr., redshirt junior receiver. Keontae Woodbury, Everett Polk at tight end, a true sophomore there for Jacksonville State. Everyone on the offensive line from different schools, you kind of like to see that with Nate Wright, who will be back at center. It's going to be huge for our offense, getting him back at center. TJ Bush and Bryson Jennings, who I said last episode, the top DN tandem in the conference. And they both make the first team. Cole Gustafson here at D-tackle, along with Adam Watkins. I didn't expect to see him here. Daniels Johnson makes that middle linebacker. Hezekiah Massis had a pick 6 against us there against FIU, although we did win that game, as he makes it along with Upton Stout. Happy to see the top 2 corners in the conference move on, along here with Brylan Green, who picked us off twice in the last episode. And then at punter, we get Joshua Hewitt. A quick run through of the second team. Just note our guys, Gabriel Benyard, Carson Kent makes it for the second team, Donovan Westmoreland, and then Sidney Porter. And I think with that, we are kind of set to advance here in simming. We kind of covered everything, bowl matchups, awards, stats. But I guess real quick, we'll just take a look at the scores in the conference championships from last week, as Liberty defeated Middle Tennessee State 34-17. Bowling Green won the MAC 23-17 over Ball State. In the Big 12, Kansas State 30-10 over Colorado, as they got that first round bye. Louisiana 35-14 over App State for the Sun Belt. In the SEC, 25-24 A&M over Texas. And these two teams played in the final week of the season. Texas A&M won that by like 5 points. And now they win this one by 1 point. So A&M had those 8 points in the fourth quarter. They must have gone for 2 there to win it at the end or something. Because why else would they have gone for 2 there? Usually, just kick the extra point to tie it. But instead, A&M went for the win, and they got it, as they secured the SEC championship. Back-to-back wins against the Longhorns, as they're now the top seed. Charlotte 27-24 over Temple in the Mountain West. Fresno State repeats 24-7 over San Diego State. 53-14 Oregon over Miami in the Big Ten championship. And then in the ACC, Clemson 38-24 over SMU. Also, just wanted to note that we did get a few job offers here. Cincinnati and Louisville, 2 upper conference teams offering us offensive coordinator. Then we had Eastern Michigan offering Josh Terry the head coaching gig, as Jack Moon was fired. Are you sure that's not Jackie Moon? As that would be something if we had Jackie Moon here coaching in this dynasty. But they want to offer us the lateral move there, bring Josh Terry back home to the state of Michigan. Also Ohio here, 2 MAC teams trying to pluck us there for lateral moves. But we're just obviously going to stick with our Kennesaw State team long term, as now we are set to advance to next weekend. I would take a look at the recruiting board, but I wanted this episode to be a little bit quicker. If you're interested in kind of a big recruiting update, go back to last episode, as we spent a lot of time in there. We got a bunch more commits, as we doubled our recruiting class now from 5 commits to 10 commits, and I think half of those about our gem prospects. So we'll just start here at top story. So it looks like Texas did beat Tennessee, as we'll have Clemson, Texas, much like we had here in our present-day college football playoff. We'll have Kansas State, Penn State, as the Nittany Lions did defeat SMU. Maryland, the first-round upset, as they'll have a rematch here against Oregon in the Rose Bowl. And let's just go over now and take a look at the full bracket after the first week of games. Penn State 41-26 over SMU. Louisiana pulls out the win over Virginia Tech 20-16. And I mentioned the Conference USA is kind of looking at some Sun Belt teams to expand with. And I think the Raging Cajuns may be a team they're going to target. Maryland takes down Colorado 22-17, and Texas makes a statement 42-7 over the Volunteers. Now we'll have Penn State, Kansas State, Louisiana against Texas A&M there in the David versus Goliath. Maryland trying to rewrite that 40-point loss they just suffered in the Big Ten Championship. Our rematch there with the Ducks. And then we'll have Texas Clemson in a 2-7 matchup. And now coming back here to job offers. Now we're getting offered the Indiana head coaching gig. We lost to them going back to week 2 in that overtime matchup, but they must have took note of Josh Terry, the way he's, built up this team in such a small amount of time. and the progression, the growth we saw over the course of this season. But again, we're just going to stand pat with our program, although that is a very enticing gig. We're now here into the semifinal as Penn State, the 12 seed, advances as they'll take on number 1 Texas A&M Louisiana. A very big fight, a good fight put up by them at the Sugar Bowl as they fall by just a touchdown. And Oregon very much of the same, if not worse, as they win 51-0 this time at the Rose Bowl. The Terps are going to have some, self-evaluation to do as the Ducks emerging as their hated rival, big brother there in the Big Ten. 34-14, Clemson defeats Texas as they move on. So the top 3 teams, Texas A&M, Clemson, Oregon, advance. And you have the bottom seed there in Penn State, as I'm going to go with Texas A&M, Oregon here for this year's national championship. So we went 1-2 on our picks there in the semifinal round, and we just had to take a look at this box score from Penn State as they took down Texas A&M. The top seed falls here to the bottom seed as the Nittany Lions win 42-40, and they're set for a spot here in the national championship. What a showing from them in this game. What a win. Although Drew Aller, not his best performance. I guess 18 for 26, but just 134 passing. I was going to say they must have relied here on Nicholas Singleton. 152 on the ground, 2 touchdowns. Katron Allen added 2 touchdowns as well, as both of these guys average very high, yards per carry. 11.7 from Singleton, 9.8 from Allen, just unheard of against, an SEC school, especially the top seed. Wagman had 5 touchdown passes, and they still lose just 1 interception from him. No running game, though, as the Doak Walker Award winner there, Reuben Owens, was blanked. 108 from Cyrus Allen, 2 touchdowns. 102 from Mika Tees, and then 2 touchdowns from Donovan Green, as the Penn State Nittany Lions set for a spot in the national championship where they're going to take on the Oregon Ducks at 14-1, the Penn State Nittany Lions at 12-3. And I guess actually before we simulate that, wrap up this episode, we will just take a look at all the scores here from bowl season, just outline some of these games. So Georgia Tech won 14-12 over App State. North Texas defeats the Big 12 school there in Utah. They win 38-33. They're going to finish ranked. An 11-win season there for the Mean Green, probably the best season so far in their program history. Kentucky 35-33 there over UCF. They're going to end ranked. 48-3, Middle Tennessee State repping the Conference USA well. They'll end the season ranked as well, as they hand UNL Monroe the loss, and they're going to finish under 500 now at 6-7. Fresno State does take down Liberty, though, 35-21 in the New Mexico Bowl. The 13 and 14 ranked teams there in the matchup. San Diego State takes down Wisconsin in the LA Bowl as the Badgers will finish under 500. West Virginia wins 28-16 against UConn. The ranked Huskies, as I said, maybe a player to join the Conference USA. We'll see how it goes this upcoming offseason. Notre Dame falls 35-24 to Boise State. Jacksonville State beats Western Kentucky in the New Orleans Bowl 38-23 in that matchup of Conference USA teams. Indiana falls by 1 point to Toledo in the Detroit Bowl there at Ford Field. Tough loss there for the Hoosiers, who did offer us the head coaching gig. Cincinnati 45-3 over Sam Houston State. Not a great showing there from the Bearcats, who will finish under 500. Texas Tech over Florida State there in the Pop-Tarts Bowl. And Arizona takes the Alamo Bowl, now going to week 2. Michigan wins 22-21 over South Carolina. We already saw most of these playoff matchups. Ohio State 31-14, a strong finish for them. Alabama loses 32-29 in the Gator Bowl to Miami. UNC wins the Duke's Mayo Bowl. Sun Bowl goes to Oklahoma 34-21 over LSU. Arkansas wins their bowl game. Florida wins 20-17 over USC, and that will do it there with the bowl game. So now just one thing left to do here in this year 2 season, as we're going to sim ahead. We sim past the national championship, as we'll take a look at our winner. We see there our school update: C for Pro Potential, D+ for Coach Prestige, which actually are going up for whatever reason. We'll take it. As we see there, Penn State is going to win the national championship this season. What a story for them as they take down the Oregon Ducks 34-16. Abdul Carter, player of the game, 3 tackles for loss. Amari Evans, offensive player of the game with 8 catches, 90 receiving yards, 1 touchdown. And Penn State, their first national championship since, I don't even know, maybe the 80s, the 90s. Either way, probably at least about 40 years or so, as they get a nice upset there. And they're probably going absolutely crazy there from University Park. But that's going to do it here in this episode. This is where I'm going to leave you, folks. Thank you so much for watching. Not my favorite episodes to do, just going over stats, everything around the nation, but necessary for all the storylines. You got to indulge in all this information that the Dynasty provides you with, and monitoring other teams, other players, all the stats around the nation. as we'll just scroll here down the top 25 to end the season. But it was a fun year 2. I hope you stick around for year 3. Of course, the offseason episode is coming next, where I think we're going to have a big chance to kind of put our imprint on this team. Already a strong recruiting class at 10 commits with a bunch of those guys at Gems, but our work is not even close to finished. But Cade Klubnik, the Heisman Award winner here from Clemson in year 2, and the Penn State Nittany Lions are national champions as we now look ahead to year 3 of this dynasty. And as always, everybody, it's been real and be well. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.